wanna know what love is. I want you to show me. I wanna feel what love is. I know you can show me. I'm gonna take a little time to look around me. I've got nowhere left to hide. It looks like love has finally found me. Can't stop now. I've traveled so far to change this.
Hey, well, welcome to the fourth and final night of our marriage sessions. We hope that you found these nights helpful to your marriage. We hope that they've enriched your relationships. We believe that marriage is a lifelong thing and needs lifelong investment as well. So keep on going, keep on cherishing one another, keep on learning what it is to love one another, keep on asking God to be central into your marriage as well. And listen, if you think you know someone that might benefit from these courses, or you've missed a night and want the video to recap, then please let us know so we can send you out the links. But let's enjoy the final night of the marriage sessions.
Show me.
Why do you think couples stay together? Because they love each other.
Love.
It's understanding and love.
Support, like having someone to talk to when you're down.
Got things in common, family, just the things you become so entwined.
You've got a history.
You have to work at it to stay together.
Things don't always go right, and there's some days when I think I could kill him, but actually at the end of the day, I couldn't live without him.
If you enjoy someone's company, it doesn't matter what changes in your life, you still want to be with them, you still want to spend time with them.
The best thing about being together is building memories and sharing experiences.
She just keeps me alive and interested the whole time. I just can't wait for a few more years of it.
When I was very sick, he was always there, and I always expect him to be there.
It sounds really cheesy when you say, oh, I can imagine when we're retired just sitting on a park bench somewhere and holding hands still.
Without her, it'd be a mess.
Oh, that's sweet. That's something
that sounds good.
The best part of being together.
Yeah, we got lucky, I think, don't you?
Yeah, very.
Extremely.
When most people speak about love, they're talking about how they feel. But in a relationship, love needs to go beyond that. It's about what we do. Sometimes our actions speak loudest of all. Our decision to put our partner first and our willingness to make sacrifices for them will enrich our marriage in a way that goes beyond emotion.
So Sheridan, tell us a little bit about your story, how you met your wife, Merrin.
Merrin and I were both students at the same college, and Merrin sneakily found out what my timetable was of classes, and then she would position herself so that just as I was coming out of class, she would happen to be there, and that's how she got my attention. And then we kind of got talking, and then we got chatting, and then we got going for those little walks that you have, and then soon enough we were engaged, and then about 18 months after that we got married, and that was now 19 years ago.
Okay, and then over that 19 years, I know that you've experienced a very particular challenge in your relationship. I think most couples, well, all couples, I think, experience some challenges. This is a very specific one. So tell us a bit about that.
about 5 years into our marriage, and we'd had 5 really good years, and I think I was standing in the kitchen at the time. Merryn walked in and she said, "Honey, I think it's time." And I said, "Time for what, dear?" Being the man. And she said, "Time we started a family." And it was right, it was the right time. We were settled, we were in a good position in every kind of way. And we started the process, and as any couple who makes that decision knows, every 28 days from that point on, you are looking for signs of success, right?
Yeah.
And there is expectation. And often it's very common that after the first month or two, there's disappointment. Expectation, disappointment, and for many couples, expectation, excitement. Well, for us, the expectation, disappointment cycle lasted for months after month after month after month. And about 9 months later, we went and got some tests done, which revealed there was a significant problem on my side. And unless we had some sort of divine miracle or technological assistance, our dreamt of child would be very hard to have. We didn't know then, Catherine, that that was the beginning of what turned out to be a decade-long journey of trying almost every means possible to start a family. We tried special diets, we tried special supplements, we tried IVF. We waited for 2 years on the Australian adoption list, waiting for the phone call saying, "Here's your child, come and pick him up," and it never came. And then we tried a whole heap of kind of final rounds of IVF towards the end of 2010, and we had been told that we were pregnant. And then on Christmas Eve of 2010, we were told, "We're sorry, you're not." And with that fairly cruel twist, you have to agree, to the story, our decade-long dream of having a child came to an end, and we had to start again.
Talk to us a little bit about, how did that affect you?
For me personally, there was a whole heap of guilt involved in this because I was the reason. And for Merryn, there was a whole heap of struggling and frustration about who she was, because with every dream comes an identity. She wanted to become a mum, and she couldn't become a mum. And then for us as a couple, there were all the tensions that happen as a result of going through that kind of struggle together. A lot of times we were not on the same page as to how we were going to journey forward from this point on. Would we continue with IVF? I didn't want to, Merryn did. Would we adopt or try to adopt from overseas or locally? We had different opinions about that. We had to spend a lot of time sitting on that couch working things through because in so many cases we were not on the same page. That was the real tension, I think, between us when it came through going through that wilderness, we call it, of infertility.
So an incredibly tough 10 years. What would you say it was that got you through that time?
There was a time when we were initially exploring the whole idea of doing IVF, and we were meeting with an IVF counsellor, and the counsellor said to us, "Well, you know that IVF can actually put quite a strain on a couple." And we initially thought she was talking about the kind of actual physical process of going through that with the drugs that can really leave a woman emotionally fluctuant just because of everything that's going on in her body as a result of the process. And she said, "Well, yes, but not so much that. I'm actually talking about the decision-making process between the two of you, and sometimes you may not agree on things." And with that, Merryn said, "Sheridan and I have already talked about this, and we've already agreed that our marriage is more important than having a child." And with that, the counsellor actually slumped, and she left her objective, how counsellors are supposed to be all objective, not bring their own feelings and conversations into it. And she said, "I'm so glad you said that, because just yesterday, a couple sat in the very same chairs that you're sitting in now, and the woman said to me in front of her husband, 'If this doesn't work, if IVF doesn't give us a child, the marriage is over.'" That, Catherine, is what got us through. The fact that, of course we wanted children, but our marriage was more important than having that dream fulfilled. That's what got us through in the end.
And that led you to a particular decision, a life choice. So talk to us a bit about that.
We were sitting by the Sydney Harbour at one stage. We were living in Sydney at the time, having a conversation about our future. And Merryn says to me, this is just before the final round of IVF. She said, "If this doesn't work, if we don't have children from this, the thought of life going on as normal is just too much for me to contemplate. I'd need something else, something to kind of pin my hopes on, something, a consolation prize." And I said, "Well, what would be a nice consolation prize?" And she said, "Well, the only other thing that I've wanted to do, apart from become a mum, is to live and work overseas." And I said, "Overseas?" And she said, "Yeah, if we don't have a child, can we go to Europe?" And Catherine, that was not good news to me, because things were going incredibly well for me for my career. During that same 10 years, funnily enough, that we'd wrestled with this infertility, I had had wonderful opportunities in broadcasting, had a dream radio show that kind of came to fruition. It was a national radio show, I was hosting that. Wonderful book publishing opportunities, great speaking gigs. And to leave that and move to another country, who knew what was going to happen? Would I ever be able to pick it back up? Long story short, we ended up making that decision. And Merryn got offered a job at Oxford University, no less, and so we came to England and started our lives again.
What was it that made the difference for you in enabling you to do that? Because that is quite a hard thing to do.
When you marry somebody, you join with them. You join lives, you join bodies, you join bank accounts, you join shared stories and join shared dreams. And so part of marriage at its best, is that you share in each other's fulfillment, including the fulfillment of their dreams. Merryn had followed me from Brisbane over to Perth, and Perth then to Sydney as I kind of was able to see my career start to flourish. It was time for her to have a dream fulfilled, and it was time to let go of something in order to let that happen. That's why.
And for your marriage, how did it affect your marriage?
I think coming over here and being able to do this together was, in many ways, a way for us to be strengthened together. There's no doubt that if you are able to face these challenges and these struggles as a united couple, as much as it's going to be difficult for one person and the other and the two of you together, if you can do that, you can get to a very strong place. You can get to a place of relational resilience.
Relational resilience, what does that mean?
Resilience is the capacity to be able to bound back once you've been knocked down, or to be kind of brought back into shape once you've been stretched out of shape. And it's a wonderful thing to consider when it comes to our relationships, particularly our marriages. It's relational resilience. You think about any good movie you see at the cinema. You think about any good book that you read. Any great story has struggle in it. There is no good story without struggle. Now, you consider your marriage a story. Consider that whatever it is that you're facing, it might be a broken dream, it might be relational personality issues and differences. That struggle actually has within it the capacity to really make a wonderful marriage story. Imagine if you were to see that, going through the struggles together as a unified whole and making your way through those storms can get to a wonderful story and a wonderful ending where the characters are able to be so much stronger. That's what I'm talking about when it comes to relational resilience.
So Sheridan, if there are couples who are watching this, maybe they actually, life's pretty easy for them at the moment, but sure enough, there will be some struggles ahead. Or there may be couples who are going through a really difficult time just at the moment, particular challenges. What advice would you give to them?
A couple of pieces just from our experience. Number one, stay in the room. There are so many times when Merryn and I were sitting on that couch having those difficult conversations that would last, sometimes they'd last for a couple of hours, and I did not want to sit on that couch. I wanted to move out of that. I wanted to leave that room, stay in the room, talk, converse, explore the difficult emotions that both of you are going through, because both of you might be going through different things. And related to that, I would also say, is give each other some emotional space to be able to go through your own individual journeys together. There were times that I think I wanted to jolly Merryn up a bit as we were going through our infertility and our kind of wilderness journey. And let's get to an ending, let's kind of make a decision and let's kind of move on from this so we can be happy again together. There are big issues involved, identity issues involved when you're going through a difficult time and maybe you have a broken dream. You've got to give each other space to go through those kinds of things. Stay in the room, give each other space to go through your individual journeys.
So if there's a couple who are watching this and they're facing a broken dream, what would your advice be to them?
That the greater tragedy than a broken dream is to have your life forever defined by it. That you really can start again, and you can start again together. And you can maybe have a life you were never expecting result out of that storm that you're going through. But don't let it define you. Don't let it define your marriage. You can start again. And you can have a pretty interesting story result out of it.
Sheridan, thank you so much for sharing your story. So helpful. Thank you.
It's great, Catherine. Thank you.
I was looking at a job change, which was going to mean quite a significant reduction in finances, wasn't it? And it meant in the early days of being married, Steph was going to need to be the breadwinner, really, and I was going to take a very small salary, wasn't I? And I think that it was a sacrifice for you. It probably put a slight burden on you that you were commuting regularly to London and needing to work incredibly hard to allow me to do what was the dream for me, although it was also the dream for you. It was definitely a huge impact on your workload to maintain it, wasn't it?
But yeah, we've kind of gone through things together, haven't we? We've been a real team in it all, so we've just kind of thought, right, we're in it together. Let's just go through this and try and get whatever we can out of it, try and get the best out of this experience.
When the kids came along, I started to work on a Sunday as well, so Sunday was a work day, so Saturday was the only day that we sort of had family time. So I had to give up football, which I did willingly in one sense, but I do still miss it, and that is something that I still love to play. Yeah, I'm coming up to 40 this year, but I still feel like I can play. I still feel like
You've got one more World Cup in you.
Roy Hodgson can call me up for the Euros still, I think, or the World Cup, whichever.
I think you'll be more likely to be the mascot than an actual football player, though, now.
You're bringing a whole other person with a whole other set of, thoughts and values and all kinds of things into your inner world and giving them basically permission to totally challenge, shape, influence that whole space. Life in that way would just be so much more simple if you just removed yourself and went and did what you want. But in getting married, what you're saying is you want to bring someone else into that space that's going to cause you to sacrifice, and you're going to find tons of life and joy in it.
It's a funny thing, isn't it? Because you can think it's like a negative thing, but I don't think sacrificing things is always negative. Sometimes it's actually really fulfilling.
Yeah. When things are going well, when we sort of stop and think about it, it's often because we are always thinking about each other rather than ourselves, and I think that's when marriage works best. But it's so easy to flip back into that selfishness mode.
I heard of a man who almost drowned while swimming on holiday. Whilst he was recovering in hospital, somebody said to him, "Did you not see the large sign warning of the dangerous currents? And did you not see the red flag fluttering on the edge of the beach?" He said, "You know what? I did see them. But I'm a pretty strong swimmer. I thought I'd be safe." I see enough pain in a week to last me a lifetime in the work that I do, and I know it's not always possible to keep every relationship together. But I also know that when relationships break, there's always pain. And the ripples often hit other people, especially children. So it's worthwhile taking a moment to think of some of those red flags that can help us protect our marriage, our family. I don't know if you remember the film Sliding Doors. It had an interesting theme. It was that taking this action instead of this action can have incredible consequences. In that case, catching this train instead of a different train. And some of the actions that seem innocent to us can have incredible consequences when we go down a particular road. We're on Facebook, and suddenly we see a previous boyfriend or girlfriend name comes up, and our hand hovers over the mouse. Should we contact them or not? Maybe it's a red flag. We're about to send a text message, a little more personal than normal, perhaps even slightly inappropriate. Would we be happy for our husband or wife to look at those text messages? It's a red flag. We suddenly come across a link to an adult website. Is this really going to help us in our relationship? It's a red flag. One woman told me of a red flag that occurred as she was dressing for work. She had an appointment later that day with a man, not her husband, and she caught herself kind of trying to look a little extra attractive. She said, "Rob, it was a real warning." So often those actions are innocuous. If anybody challenged us, we could easily rebuff them, but we know what's going on. A woman who had an affair that cost her just about everything said to me, "Rob, he offered me a lift home one night after work, and I hesitated before getting in the car. But as I got in and sat down, I knew where it was leading." See, the problem with the affair is when it starts, it's free, isn't it? The price tag says free. Little innocent flirtation, nobody gets hurt. But as it moves through its stages, it's as if somebody at the back of the shop is altering the price tag almost weekly. Now the price goes up a little, demands a little deception. And one day we walk into the store and the price tag says, everything. We say, no, not everything. I didn't sign up for everything. Oh, yes, everything. And sometimes it is exactly that. Husband, wife, friends, family, circle of friends, sometimes job. One man said to me, I feel as if I've unleashed a tsunami. A man walked into my office some years ago. He was about to leave his wife and 2 small children for the woman he was having an affair with in the office. He was pretty arrogant, to be honest. He said, I really don't want to be here. My wife and friends said I should come. I said, well, can you spare me 2 minutes? He said, yes, I can spare you 2 minutes. I said, take a seat. In the work I do, I see lots of this stuff. Let me tell you what I think the next 2 years may hold for you. Incredible sex, unbelievable conversation, almost teenage thrills. You'll catch yourself saying, this woman makes me feel half my age. This is the woman I should have married. But you know the problem? If this is the ordinary life, cleaning out the garage on a Saturday, taking the kids to piano lessons, doing the household chores, the problem with the ordinary life is it gets boring. And we flip off into this incredibly exciting affair. But you know what normally happens after about 2 years? We suddenly click into another ordinary life again. And the car won't start in this new life. And bills still come in, and the ordinary invades. One psychologist put it like this. He said, the other man's grass may be greener, but it still needs mowing. And when that happens, you may wake up one morning and you'll wonder what your kids look like first thing in the morning. I know you'll still see them at weekends and Christmas and holidays, but you'll wonder what they look like as they wake in the morning. And it's not at all impossible that you'll look back at things that used to drive you crazy, your wife did 2 years ago, but now they won't seem such a big deal. And it's not even impossible that at that moment you will look at the woman lying next to you, and she will not seem quite as attractive as she does today. Now, that may not happen, but I'm telling you, I see it time and time again. He didn't say much. He just said thank you when he walked out. He never did leave his wife and kids. They're still together today and actually very happy. And I suppose even at that last moment, he saw a big red flag. Now, you and I may have walked past a dozen red flags. We might have got many things wrong, but it's not too late to say, no, enough, stop. I'm going to protect my marriage, my family.
I set out on a narrow way many years ago, hoping I would find true love along the broken road. But I got lost a time or two, wiped my brow and kept pushing through. I couldn't see how every sign pointed straight to you. Today and every day, marry me. If I ever get the nerve to say hello in this cafe, say you will. Ooh. 'Cause God bless the broken road that led me straight to you. Heart beats fast, colors and promises. How to be brave. How can I love when I'm afraid to fall? Watching you stand alone. All of my doubt suddenly goes away somehow. My head's underwater, but I'm breathing fine. You're crazy and I'm out of my mind. Every long lost dream led me to where you are. Others who broke my heart, they were like northern stars, pointing me on my way into your loving arms. This much I know is true, that all of me loves all of you. Love your curves and all your edges, all your perfect imperfections. I have died every day waiting for you. Darling, don't be afraid. I have loved you for 1,000 years. I love you for 1,000 more. And all along I believed I would find you. Time has brought your heart to me. I have loved you for 1,000 years. I love you for 1,000 more. 'Cause I give you all of me. God bless the broken road that led me straight to you. All of you. So marry me. Heart beats fast, colors and promises. How to be brave. How can I love when I'm afraid to fall? Watching you stand alone. All of my doubt suddenly goes away somehow. My head's underwater, but I'm breathing fine. You're crazy and I'm out of my mind. Every long lost dream led me to where you are. Others who broke my heart.
I think we all know tough times come to every marriage. Some couples experience challenges sooner than others. But for all of us, there comes a time when our relationship is put under strain and our commitment is tested. It is when the going gets tough that we can face choices that ultimately define our relationships. And it is these choices that can not just hold our marriages together, but strengthen them.
I sometimes go to a little cottage in West Wales, very, very near the beach. And a couple of years ago, it was a lovely August day, and I'm walking on the beach, and it really was beautiful. The sun was catching the water, it made it look like diamonds, and the hills looked lovely, and the beach looked fantastic. And as I was walking back up to the cottage, there was an old fisherman sat there. And I said, "It's idyllic, isn't it?" I don't know if he was just tired of tourists or whether he was always grumpy, but he said, "You should see it in January." And when I walked on the beach the next day, it was equally as lovely, but I felt the sea and the hills and the sand whisper to me, "Would you love us in January?" I honestly believe that January love comes to every relationship. This is a time where perhaps we don't, at least for a while, feel particularly in love, where we have to love not just with the heart, but with the will. We have to love not just because of sometimes, but in spite of. And I know we don't want to live in January love all our lives, but I'm convinced that unless we do learn to love in January, we'll never know a long-term love with anybody. I remember a young couple come in to see me. I suppose they're about mid-20s. She's cradling a little baby about 6 months old. And I say to this young man, why are you leaving your wife and your little girl? He said, because I don't feel in love. When we got married, I so much felt in love. And I said, did nobody tell you that the feelings of love go up and down? Did nobody tell you that often after the birth of a little one, it can be hard going for a while? Perhaps sex is not so great and there are all kinds of pressures. Did nobody tell you sometimes you have to fight to keep love alive? Did nobody ever tell you about January love? And he said, no, nobody told me that. And I look at this little baby, this little girl, and the first man in her life is about to walk out on her forever. And nobody told him that. Captain Corelli's Mandolin is one of the best-loved novels of the British public, and there's a wonderful excerpt. The father, Dr. Inanis, is giving his daughter Pelagia some advice on the real nature of love. She is head over heels in love with this dashing Italian army captain. And he says this, when you fall in love, it is a temporary madness. It erupts like an earthquake and then it subsides. And when it subsides, you have to make a decision. You have to work out whether your roots are to become so entwined together, it is inconceivable that you should ever part. Because this is what love is. Love is not breathlessness, it is not excitement, it is not lying awake imagining he is kissing every part of your body, for that is just being in love, which any of us can convince ourselves we are. Love itself is what is left over when being in love has burned away. Do you know, sometimes when we're trying to recapture love, and we've had to love in January, and sometimes it can seem so hopeless. It seems, you know what, we could never find that love again, but sometimes we can. And sometimes it can begin with the smallest thing. I remember some years ago, I was running a seminar in Canada, a big 2,000-seater auditorium. And as I walked in, one of the people organizing the seminar said to me, there are a couple here tonight, they're about to have a divorce. We don't know why they've come. And we certainly don't know why they've sat in the front row. I look at this couple. They look as though they hate each other. Frankly, they looked as if they hated me. They'd moved their chairs as far apart from each other as they could without inconveniencing the people either side. They didn't speak to each other the whole evening. When other people left in the break for have a cup of coffee, they stayed there, immobile. The event began at 7:30 and finished at 10 o'clock. At 9:45, he suddenly reached out and took her hand. I watched as she pulled her hand back and then kept watching as she put her hand back and put her other hand over his hand. I could hardly finish the next 15 minutes. I'm watching those hands. And afterwards, as I recounted that story to a friend, he said, Rob, are you about to tell me that a touch saved their marriage? Well, of course, I don't know. But I do know this. Sometimes a marriage will go down in a spiral over the years. Not big things, not the affair, not abuse, just 1,000 tiny hurts that never got resolved. And sometimes the tiniest thing will kick the bottom of that spiral and get it going up again. And sometimes something very, very small. Sometimes something as small as a touch.
In life, unexpected challenges happen. Dreams can be shattered and plans for the future can be jeopardized. Yet when we decide to remain committed to one another, we can look forward with hope, sticking together, come what may.
It's funny seeing all the leaves in the ground.
Just with the drop in temperature.
We have been through a number of challenges in our marriage, but nothing really prepared us for the onset of illness. I started getting ill maybe 20 years ago, And we knew that there was something neurologically wrong, but we weren't sure what it was. And my own GP was very, very good and got me referred to a neurologist quite quickly. And within a few years, I was diagnosed as having multiple sclerosis.
I think when Jackie was first diagnosed, it was a shock, although we did have an idea that that's what the news was going to be, but it wasn't something that he was ever going to get better from. So we then had to realise we were living with that reality. So although his physical condition didn't change on that day, I suppose our future very much did, and our plans possibly for the future. So there was probably a sense of loss and a bit of grief that went along with that. At times you did think about what was the worst case scenario and, you know, how was the illness going to progress and how quickly, and we still had, our children were young at that stage, so that did, I suppose, put fear into you at some point.
I was a police officer, and it became very clear quite early on, almost 5 years before I ended up losing my job, that it was getting more and more difficult, and it was harder and harder to go out to work. And, you know, I was doing things which were not in character, like falling asleep at my desk. And, you know, people were asking questions about why is your leg shaking and why are you walking on a stick, and then why are you walking on 2 sticks? And it just became almost unbearable.
There were times when you did have bad days and difficult times, and it was hard not to be weighed down by that. The reality of it was you still had children to get up and out to school every day. I had a job to keep down so that we had a roof over our heads, and so really there was no question about just giving up. We just had to go on this journey.
There were times when I thought, this is too much, this isn't fair, this is, you know, Heather shouldn't have to be going through this, and this is my fault.
There was times when I fell into bed exhausted at night thinking, oh, how am I going to get through tomorrow? But the sun still comes up, and, you know, your children's still waking and they need fed, and you just have to get on with it.
It is what it is. I have it, I can't get rid of it. And really it would be very easy to just say, I'll just lie down under it and let it have its way with me. But we have really decided together as a couple that that's not going to be the way it is, that we're going to take each day as it comes and we're going to live it the best we can. I think we throw words about willy-nilly very easily today, and, you know, for me, commitment's not an easy thing, it's an important thing. But it is only a word until it's tested. And I think when you're tested in your marriage, then quite often when you look at each other and you commit to each other, it strengthens you. And no matter what comes, your marriage can become stronger and better.
I think we just very much try and walk the journey together and realise that we're better together than dealing with things individually on our own, and a problem shared really is a problem halved. So that's our attitude to the difficulties that we come across.
My MS is not the end of our relationship, it's just something that's happened on the journey. But for other people it could be all sorts of difficulties that they face along the way. But when tough times come along, those are the times that you've got to say, I still love you even though things are tough. And I will still love you tomorrow, and I love you the day after tomorrow, and I love you for as long as we're together. Nice, actually.
No matter where we're at in a relationship, it can help to know that any marriage has the potential to flourish. In tough times and good times, let's remember to put our partner first and remain committed.
The best thing about being together is that definitely Philip is my best friend, and we have a shared sense of humour.
We do.
And we talk about absolutely everything. There isn't anything we don't talk about.
Being silly is my most favourite thing about being together.
We have a lot of fun, I think, as a couple. That's one of the, I think
very
so,
true.
but we can really make each other laugh.
I love the fact that I've got someone there who's
who's my sort of champion, and I know I can go back home and they're there and they're fighting my corner.
You know, it's not been all that plain sailing in the 10 years we've been married. Actually, we've already endured quite a bit of pain in terms of physical illness and losing loved ones.
Yeah.
But being together in the midst of it has been just the most incredible thing. The strength that we've drawn from one another and the fact that we get to journey together has been wonderful.
Yeah.
Long may it continue.
Yeah.
It's a lifetime. So
3 children, 7 grandchildren, 1 great-grandchild.
Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah.
The exciting things are more exciting, the happy things are more happy, and the sad times and the stressful times are made easier and less anxious and less, less of an issue because you've got someone with you doing it with you. So that's for me. Beat that.
I just think of that. What's up there?
It's just being there, you know, and knowing that we're there for each other at any stage. That's the important thing, and there's a real security in that.
Yes, security. For all of our conflicts, for all of our challenges, I know that I'm seen, I'm known, and I'm loved just the way I am.
I have met someone who, from the moment that I met her to now, I dearly, dearly love. And I do love you.
We love each other, we fight with each other, we have fun. He has always made me laugh, and we forget that.
Choose who you want to be married to.
You do, you choose the one you love. I definitely, because I messed
Yeah.
Dave about, didn't I? When we were
Massively.
dating. Yeah, I dumped you twice.
Mutual. No, it wasn't
It's
mutual.
not. Could you throw it back? It wasn't.
It
And it took me a long time to sort of
Come back
commit
begging.
come back begging.
And you did.
I did, yeah, and commit. That was my own issues, David, not
That's fine.
yours.
You needed to deal with it.
And I did, and I think I chose to love you as much as I was attracted to you and loved things about your character and stuff. It was making that extra step into, oh, do I see him as my husband? And I did. And here we are, having a ball.
Cracking.
Say something, I'm giving up on you. I'll be the one if you want me to. Anywhere I would have followed you. Say something, I'm giving up on you. And I am feeling so small. It was over my head. I know nothing at all. And I will stumble and fall. I'm still learning to love, just starting to crawl. Say something, I'm giving up on say goodbye. Oh, say something, I'm giving up on you. Oh, I'm sorry that I couldn't get to you. Anywhere I would follow you. Say something, I'm giving up on you. Say something, I'm giving up on you. Say something. I gotta take a little time to think things over. I better read between the lines in case I need it when I'm older. In my life, there's been heartache and pain. I don't know if I can face it again. Can't stop now. I've traveled so far to change this lonely life.
I wanna know what love is. I want you to show me. I wanna feel what love is. I know you can show me. I'm gonna take a little time to look around me. I've got nowhere left to hide. It looks like love has finally found me. Can't stop now. I've traveled so far to change this lonely life. Ooh, I wanna know what love is. I want you to show me. I wanna feel what love is. I know you can show me. Yeah. I wanna know what love is. I want you to show me. Yeah, I wanna feel what love is. I know you can show me.